And so we are back with episode 6 of the LHC. We're rewatching RahXephon again.
Well,
And
not again. We're still doing the original rewatch of RahXephon.
Yeah, we're still rewatching.
Started.
As in, we're rewatching an episode of RahXephon again.
2, to be precise.
Yes, we're watching 2 episodes of RahXephon, and I'm always unsure of like how much you should talk about, you know, your experience of the episode right at the start. But yeah.
These were trippy as balls.
These were very different. Okay, trippy as balls. That's a good way to talk about it. I think they were both pretty trippy.
That's how we put it last time. Yeah,
I know. Trippy as balls implies like it's fun.
No, that's true. I'm 10 minutes late to this recording because I was talking to Holly about it because we just watched these and she was like, I have no clue what went on there. So
That's
I
interesting actually
to
because
go through it a bit.
That was the one downside, is I thought these were very straightforward. In fact, we can leap straight into episode 11 because episode 11 starts in a fight.
It does. This is also the episode I have the least amount of notes for. And I think this is possibly going to be our shortest discussion of an episode. But at the same time, it could be our longest if we really want to get stuck into similes and metaphors and the symbolism of everything.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think there's much symbolism.
No, I know. I kept trying to look out for it and be like, there isn't enough plot of this episode to have an actual discussion of it properly.
Yeah.
So let's do some symbolism.
But
I've got 2.
Let's say we're watching episode 11.
Yes, which for me is Nightmare.
And for me, it's called Kyoja Circuit.
Yes, which I think is a part of Tokyo, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's probably. It wouldn't surprise me if it's a train line in Tokyo. Oh God, I should have looked. Tell you what, let's do the usual podcasty thing. Let's look up that, shall we?
Look up that while we talk.
While we talk about it.
Okay.
Because this starts in the middle of a fight. Kyoja Circuit.
To be
the first
fair,
thing I get is cuts from the RahXephon episode.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Type it into Google. So perhaps maybe it's. Sorry, let's just cut out circuit and just search for Kyoja. Ooh.
What is the Kyoja? I've got Kyoja main restaurants.
Yeah, I get Korean restaurants.
Korean restaurants.
Okay, maybe it's not a part of Tokyo.
Okay, so it doesn't seem to be a part of Tokyo, but it certainly is an anime episode in the series RahXephon. That's what the internet is telling me.
Oh, yeah.
So certainly we've managed to get that denoted down. Okay, anyway.
So RahXephon is fighting the Dolum, and I'm looking at it here, Vivace.
Yes. I'm not even going to try and pronounce it, I'm sorry.
Vivace. I get an Italian restaurant, actually, the first time I typed that in. Vivace music definition, there we go.
I think of this as the Halo robot.
Yes, it does have a halo. It means lively. So if you describe a piece of music as vivace, it is lively. Which is interesting, because actually that's the opposite definition of this episode. This episode is ponderous.
I was going to leave this note till the end, but honestly, one of my notes on here is, did this episode have anything in it that was worth talking about? And then, is there a point to this episode, or could you cut it without any disturbance to the series? And I genuinely think you don't need to see this one. You could skip this episode and you wouldn't notice. I didn't note a single plot point.
The only thing it does is it sets up the next episode.
There, it's fine. There is one scene that carries across and that makes one difference to the next episode, but that's it. And we'll talk about that scene at length.
We'll talk about that scene, I guess. But here's I thought I might have to...
You don't want to talk about that scene because I know what's in it.
Argue with you about this, actually, because I thought you might come to defend it. Because one thing we do notice is it starts in a fight, RahXephon with a Dolum, and RahXephon is actually having trouble fighting this Dolum.
I know, but you don't even see why. It's basically just implied that the RahXephon has turned up. Oh, look, there's a Dolum. And the Dolum goes, I can sing, I can sing, I can sing. And the RahXephon shuts down.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, what? I thought you'd got used to them singing by now. He's like, oh my god, my one weakness. It did the one thing that all Dolums seem to do. So, yeah, somehow this... And also, there's Dolums after this, which also sing, that it doesn't have a problem with. This is like, maybe Ayato was on an off day, because, he just gets captured. My other point was, where the hell are Alpha Squad?
Yeah, Alpha Squad aren't anywhere near there.
Alpha Squad are nowhere to be seen. They're not flying. They're usually circling, picking off the little stray tiny things, or helping with support fire, or anything like that, or just generally wasting taxpayer money. But they aren't around at all. We just open with everyone in the Central Command screaming, going, "Oh my god, RahXephon's failing at its only job!"
This also does highlight just how few people there are in Terra, because it's just the people we know. It's just the people we know and have been introduced to so far. Right? Oh my god! And in like the Bridge of White base in Gundam was more hectic on a day where things were going well than it is today. Perhaps the worst thing that has ever happened to the RahXephon so far, because it's actually losing.
It really is just a case of, so who's having a bit of a fit? Well, Haruka's upset, Megumi's upset, Kim seems to be having a go. Don't know where the hell the commander is, because it's got the major around, I think.
Yeah, the major's talking. No, yeah, the commander doesn't talk that much. I think he stares
It's
at the
just
camera
there,
for
like,
a bit.
well, I guess this is bad. Maybe I'll be out of a job by tomorrow.
Well, no,
and we'll all be dead in a week.
He's not out of a job. Terra still's around, still has to defeat the Dolums, but I think he's like, I don't have to deal with that fucking prick Ayato anymore. He really does not like Ayato. Especially now, I mean, let's not forget last episode, Ayato peered into his personal life.
I know, but the thing is, he didn't seem to mind that. And also, he didn't seem to think it was... Well, it wasn't 100% that it was Ayato. It was definitely Megumi that he realised was doing it. And it was also the reporter, but...
Yeah.
You're not necessarily having Ayato being the known culprit of Operation Really Fuck Up Your One Chance to talk to your ex-wife before she leaves the country and changes her name.
Yes. But anyway, back to this episode. And RahXephon is under attack. Ayato reacts really weirdly to this. He seems to have this weird expression. Both he and the Dolum are pulled into the halo that surrounds the Dolum. And he gets pulled into perhaps the most terrifying world of all, a sepia-coloured place with fake widescreen bars. Yeah,
the aspect ratio in here just completely changes.
Yeah, it changes into widescreen from 4.3.
Yeah, which is weird considering I'm watching it on a widescreen TV. So when I normally put RahXephon on, my widescreen cuts off the right and the left-hand bars to make it not widescreen anymore. And then in this, it also cut off the top and the bottom. So I'm actually watching a widescreen show in a fraction of the size of my TV.
It's a good way to show that he's in a dream. Which he is, throughout this episode, it's kind of hard to point it out, but he is so obviously in a dream. And even Ayato works out very quickly.
Virtually instantaneously, yeah.
That he's in a dream.
He's in the lowest budget part of the RahXephon world.
All the colours are washed out. It's all this sort of sepia tone thing. Everyone who isn't an important character is a greyed out silhouette, Yeah.
So this is also, though, as much as they're saving budget on all the people and the tone... they've really gone into detail on the buildings, and the animation of the characters that are actually involved is actually top-notch.
Pretty much the same, yeah.
Really, there were episodes where they put a lot of lackluster animation in, but this one, especially the scenes of interaction between him and the actual characters who aren't just silhouettes, they've really gone in for it.
You think so?
I do. Well, no. Think about the time when he's talking to Dream Haruka, the time when he's talking to Dream Mishima. The time when he's talking to Dream Asahina, just all the animation on those characters and their movements with him. But it didn't
seem special or anything compared to.
To me, it's their top-notch game. I felt with
compared
the animation
to
of those.
like episode 1 and 2.
Yeah, well, it's the ones where they're actually putting a lot of effort in, whereas the ones of just here is Ayato walking, here is Ayato talking, they tend to just go, who needs to animate this bullshit? Let's just have him stand there.
So he meets up with Asahina and Mamoru in this one.
They're a couple now.
Yeah, well, they're kissing or what have you, but really it doesn't seem to make any sense. They don't really talk about it. He has time to sort of be slightly weird, but then they drag him off to play arcade games.
It's just a case of, hey, we're a couple now. Not going to mention it. Let's go gaming.
And then Asahina pushes her chest up against Ayato. Is that going to happen? Nope, not going to mention it. Let's keep going. Now let's eat takoyaki.
Actually, before we change to the takoyaki, can I point out, he looks at the high scores of the game, and there are two things to note on here.
Oh, yeah,
One, do you know who is, I think, fourth on the high score list?
No, who is fourth?
The cat!
The cat!
Bucci the cat is fourth at that game
I
that
wondered about
Mamoru
those
is
names,
playing.
but I couldn't find them in time. Oh, I'm glad you...
Yeah, I recognise, because I think Mamoru is not top. I think Mishima was top of the game. That
doesn't surprise me.
And then AAA was second. Third was something I don't remember. And then fourth was like Bucci. I was like, what? Bucci the cat's been playing in this dream world and has become amazing at an arcade game, which mostly seemed to consist of shooting people while wearing thermal vision goggles. The other thing to note about the high score screen was the date on it is today.
What, 2015?
No,
19...
July 2015.
July 2015. Oh, how fantastic. We
are
are recording this in July.
We are recording this in the mid-teens of July, and it's basically the exact same date.
Ah, we really are getting auspicious in this.
Weird synergy going on.
Yeah, we got a weird synergy. We meshed up so we're the same date in Tokyo Jupiter, and now we're the same month.
Yeah, exactly. We just have to try and keep this up to the point of the finale. Maybe we should wait and record the finale on the same day. You know, in 2029 or whatever the hell year they're doing these days.
I was unsure to when to bring this up, but I think we'll just keep on bringing it up every time it happens. So this dream is really obvious and weird and kind of surreal. And this would make sense if the Mulians were like an inscrutable alien presence that doesn't understand humanity as much as humanity doesn't understand them.
Yeah.
But the Mulians aren't. The Mulians understand humanity so well that one of humanity's greatest fears is that the Mulians will infiltrate them. And
they keep going, check their blood, check everyone's blood, they might have blue blood.
Exactly, like the Mysterons in Captain Scarlet. And it's just like, why can't they make good dreams? Why can't the Dolans make good dreams?
Well, the implication there is that actually the dream, because the Mulian creature that's creating it does say to Ayato, this dream is whatever you want it to be. You can stay here and this is your perfect scenario and what you actually really want. You want to be back in Tokyo with your friends and you want every woman to be coming onto you and pushing their breasts against you in an arcade. And you want to be able to go for coffee and have Dreadlocks Guy serve you because apparently you see him as a barista figure in your life.
Yes, this is what happens. Okay, so Ayato runs away from Asahina, who keeps on trying to hit on him. Again.
Yeah. Whenever Mamoru is not looking, Asahina's just like, I bet you're better than my current boyfriend. Want to trade up?
And so he then meets Haruka, who takes him to a cafe. And so we notice that the guy in the background is Dreadlocks Guy from Kwan's fan club. And so nearly, if they're important in the background, they're going to be a character that he has already met.
Yeah.
And it's just like, ugh. I just think Ayato, if this is really Ayato's ideal dream world, I thought Ayato as an artist would have a more convincing dream.
I know. I think it's mostly because he's fucked up.
Before he meets Haruka, he runs away and he goes into an alley and he meets a toy penguin.
I know!
That proceeds to stare at him and then explode. What does this have to do with the rest of the episode? Nothing. It just serves to further freak out Ayato. Why?
I don't.
This dream is ridiculous.
I don't normally quote these, but I really do think at this point we have to quote the abridged series of Yu-Gi-Oh! And then you exploded. Why did you do that? Nobody knows. Randomly, there's actually, that's one of the things I think, the only one of the two symbolism things I've got noted down is there's a lot of toys in this dream world. Like, whenever he travels, when he goes on the bus later on, there's a small rabbit doll in the bush behind him.
In the bush,
and there's
establishing shot.
You know, well, you've got the penguin and the thing. And
but let's not rush ahead of ourselves. So
No, I'm just saying that this is the first of the toy symbolism that they seem to be going for.
After meeting the exploding penguin, he meets Haruka, who takes him to the cafe.
That's a great sentence. I'm sorry, but that's the sentence we use more often. Yeah. After meeting the exploding penguin, I went out for coffee with my friend.
So she comes in, she talks about it and says, so what? I mean, this is a dream world, but does it matter if... And he uses the Confucian story of does it matter if you were a butterfly dreaming to be a man, or a man dreaming to be a butterfly? The answer, very often being, yes.
Yeah, it kind of does. I mean, who wants to be a butterfly? They're shit.
Yeah, they don't live very long. And they just drink nectar. But then this dream Haruka proceeds to terrify Ayato with the most terrifying thing possible to a 17-year-old boy. Boobs!
What I find interesting here, though, is that it just cuts from them sitting across from one another to him on top of her as she's pressed against one of the benches at the table and with his hand on her breast as he's pulling down her shirt.
Yeah.
So this is the scene where he suddenly seems like terrified, like, wait, how did I get here? It's like he just instantly appears to be assaulting her.
Yeah. To which he says, come on, you should totally do whatever you want. To which, Ayato, of course, says, well, it doesn't matter even if I say that. You're the adult in this situation, and you would say how that is totally inappropriate for someone of my age.
I know, you're 29 and I'm 17. You really should be having more control over this.
Yeah, this would be totally illegal.
I'm not
that
the
is
one
exactly
going to
what
prison.
She says.
Yeah. She's like, you're right. I am the prison person here. So I will initiate this and take the responsibility for our actions.
Well, no. She shouldn't initiate this because it would be illegal.
Yeah, and she's like, look, I've even got Dredd, who is still watching and completely not caring about this.
Yeah, people do this in his cafe all the time.
The one thing that, going back to the symbolism thing, the other symbolism thing that's vaguely around is angels and stuff, and just sort of angelic figures, because when they knock the coffee over, the coffee's stain spreads very specifically into the figure of sort of a person with its arm raised.
I always saw that as like a butterfly. Same with a few things later. I thought it was like keeping with the butterfly symbolism.
See, I kept seeing the person with an arm raised, like, you know... Oh, sorry, the other thing as well. I had just been coping perfectly well with this world until the point where behind Haruka... No, before he touches the boob,
the painting
Haruka,
comes to life.
The painting moves. And he's like, oh my god, I'm a painter. If there's one thing I know... It's the paintings don't do that!
Paintings don't do that.
That's cinematography right there! I don't do that shit! And he freaks the fuck out.
Yeah, stuffed penguins may explode, and even more impossibly, women might be attracted to me. But
artwork does not move! This isn't holograms! We're not having it!
Yeah.
And this scene with Haruka is the only thing that the entire episode will have an impact on in the future. Is basically, he thinks, oh yeah, I got some dream tits.
Yeah. I briefly, squeezed some boob of a dream.
Also, he does give it a squeeze, and then he goes, oh my god, I've just realised what I've done. Pulls his hand away, and she goes, oh no, this hand is coming right back.
Yeah. At the same time, we then cut to Kwon, who is having like a kind of hyperventilation. I assume because of her link with Ayato or something, but she's just sort of worried. Calling out.
I don't think this is ever really explained, but for some reason she seems to be psychically linked to Ayato.
Well, I think it is kind of explained in a way.
Oh, vaguely, it might be.
But we'll jump that bridge when we come to it.
Kwon is psychically linked to Ayato in a way that's not explained yet, and causes her to freak the fuck out, which, you know what Kwon does? The first thing she does when she freaks out, strip down to her underwear.
Yeah, she strips down to her underwear for no good reason.
We can't get an opportunity to have Kwon in a scene. If she could be in her underwear in this scene, by God, she's in her underwear.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Haruka, in the very quiet terror, is just hugging her knees as well and feeling incredibly useless, because they're really just yelling at Ayato over the radio. There is no sort of indication that Terra is doing anything else.
There is also the thing of, you're just yelling at the radio, and even one of them says, I think it's Megami says, the radio signal is only connecting intermittently as well.
Yeah.
So they're basically possibly yelling into white noise. And my first question is, okay, the halo, right? So when the Dolem gets the RahXephon, this halo expands to the point where it's huge, and then it lowers, and as it lowers, they disappear from view. Now, they've got planes and something known as Alpha Squad. Why doesn't Alpha Squad go and fire at the fucking halo?
Yeah, I get the feeling that they just didn't want to bother showing anyone do anything else to, I don't know, cut down on work for this episode, because there's other than the dream sequence, very little else happens other than people standing around talking. Yeah,
and yet it is also the episode where they really don't waste any moments that they could have got away with not putting in. Like, you don't have the fight before he gets kidnapped, but you also don't really have anything at the end. The episode just sort of stops.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like we filled every second of this episode because we were so pushed for time. We really had to get more exploding penguin in there. We just couldn't cut that, and as such, everything else must go. So, yeah, it's nothing superfluous is left. If it could be cut, it has been.
Mm-hmm. So, impossible things stack upon impossible things in this dream world, as Ayato comes home, and he returns to his home, and his mother is there.
Actually at home, and not abandoning him at work. Also, did you think she was dressed like Mishima? No, I think she is. I think she's wearing the yellow dress, but has an apron over it. Oh. And Ayato's mum being in an apron, it should be the immediate, oh my god, we're in some sort of fantasy right now.
She then takes him, and it turns out that she's like made dinner and everything, and he slightly comments on it, and she goes, "Is it so weird?" And he goes, "Oh, I guess not."
Yeah, actually. Yeah, it's really fucking weird. I don't think you ever made us dinner. Now, one thing is also, every character in this is trying to make him either eat or fuck. That's it. As far as the dream world goes, that's the dream world's opinion of what will be amazing to you enough to make you stay. Is, hey, why not have a coffee? Maybe some takoyaki. I'll even make you dinner, and then you can bang any one of these chicks. That's the idea of, well, that's clearly going to make Ayato content with the clearly fake reality you want him to accept and stay in.
They do frequently try and make him eat stuff. I didn't notice that, or indeed, but this one it gets a bit more direct. But before that, Fujigami, who is the stand-in newsreader, who's generally reading just general, non-important news items, then all of a sudden
a monkey has just thrown something at its owners.
Well, they're buying chimpanzees are buying stuff from vending machines and stuff. But anyway,
was it all about monkeys?
Yeah, they're all about primates or something. But anyway, he then starts to say, hey, Kamen Ayato, you should get in contact with Terra, otherwise something really bad would happen. And it flicks in between his face, and then a very fuzzy Haruka's face.
No, it's Mishima.
Really? I swear it's Haruka's.
No, it keeps flicking between him and Mishima, and in the very last scene, Mishima transforms into Haruka for the very last shot.
So after the moment that starts to sort of get through to Ayato, his mother turns the thing off, turns the TV off, and it pretty much cuts to whoever is piloting the Dolem, because we keep on getting shown intercuts of the Dolem pilot. Yeah,
the naked Dolem pilot.
Yeah.
Apart from boots. Naked but boots, I think.
No, they've got like weird ceremonial dress on, and it's sort of whited out. It's not sort of clear. But either way, these are very brief cuts of the Dolem pilot throughout the whole episode, trying to convince him to use the RahXephon and to just, you should just follow the sheet music. You should just, you shouldn't improvise or do anything weird. You should do what your mother tells you, which is, when we see that as the Dolem are quite clearly instruments of the Mu, this is like the Dolem pilot trying to say, you should just use the RahXephon for the Mu. You should use the RahXephon for the Mu and
Join us.
Yeah, stop digging around and helping the humans. It's weirdly direct compared to how they've been working before. And again, clearly shows that, the Dolem has some control over the dream, and they're still being controlled by the Mu. So why is the dream so shit?
I think just this Dolem's a dumbass.
Yeah,
perhaps.
This Dolem might just be dumb. That might just be the reason.
That's going to be our explanation. This episode wasn't badly written, and it wasn't badly directed, and it certainly wasn't badly animated. No. The fault of all of this lies in the fact that the character was just an idiot. That's we're going to let the staff as a free pass.
No, I'm not going to let the staff have a free pass. I think this was a dumb episode still.
No, it was a bloody stupid episode, but I did try. In my defence, if any of the staff of RahXephon ever hears this, I tried.
Tried to like it. Ayato pushes down his mother, who acts like she stabbed him for some reason.
He stabbed her, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, yeah, that acts like that he stabbed her for some reason.
And just so we're pointing out the pointless symbolism again, in the background there's of a young Ayato building his house out of Lego with his mother.
With his mother. I think that's just the mother trying to convince that, ooh, your mother working with us, you should totally work with us. So, he rejects the Dolem, and then we are treated to, you mentioned like good animation, this is what made me stop. We get this crappy photo rapid montage to show Ayato running.
I know, it's so cheap!
It's not cheap. It's actually... It can be quite a fiddle thing because you're changing your whole medium there. But what this is, it's just a load of photos of a Japanese street being moved through very quickly, and they've just done a Photoshop element to it to just have just like the highlighted lines, like a negative image that's been really contrasted until it's just white and black lines.
And Ayato's just running through the foreground.
And we don't have Ayato running through this weird image. This sequence is just flicked in front of us as Ayato is running sideways, faded out. So, sort of to imply Ayato is running through the this whole place.
I know
just
you prefer...
the streets of suburbia, but it's just...
I know that you prefer me not to keep comparing it to Evangelion.
No, compare it to Evangelion if you want to. Yeah.
At this point, end of Evangelion, that if you've watched the end of Evangelion, that segment where it just suddenly becomes live action shots of the street and people around, and also the bits when Shinji's going off in his head and he just keeps seeing what's real life background shots while his face is superimposed over the front. It's just that again. And it wasn't good in the Evangelion film, and it isn't good here.
Well, I would say the one thing that this does remind me of is it reminds me of all those times when the Angels tried to make contact with Eva pilots in Evangelion, and that was so much better. I mean, the ridiculous bits of human consciousness trying to get in contact with people in Code Geass was better than these bits. And Code Geass deliberately didn't try to make sense.
This is, what's also so damning is this is a fan series. This is basically a podcast saying, "Isn't RahXephon awesome? Everyone should watch it." And we hate this episode.
Yeah, this was quite a bore.
Yeah, this is us as big fans of the show going, "Oh, you let us down, bro. You let the side down."
Yeah. And so Ayato eventually turns up in a park and meets Ixult. Ishli. Is that how they say it in the English one? Ishli. But
yeah.
For some reason in the Japanese one, they say it and it sounds so much similar to just saying a person. They say shito almost.
Really?
So to me that sounds like they're saying person, and I'm like, oh, it's probably just the Japanese accent. So I waited to hear from you. So it's Ishli. Thank you.
Ishli is how they pronounce it in the American one.
Then it's probably closer to how we should say it. So yeah.
The thing is, I also say that we've been calling her Mishima from the beginning, and Ayato calls her Mishima. But because at this point she's been revealing herself to more and more people,
to be Ishli,
Kwon especially, everyone else, Ayato's mother, so Kwon, anyone else she interacts with, will call her Ishli from now on.
Yeah.
And we should probably start changing it up. But honestly, I'm fine with saying Mishima. If you want to stick with that.
No, I'm fine with Ishli.
Because, alright, well, either way. So anyway, from now on, when we say Ishli, we'll only call her Mishima if it is relevant.
And we have the usual stuff of, because everyone's been saying, this is a dream, so you don't have to suffer in it. You don't have to do dangerous things. And he's been saying this as well. But of course he says, I don't care despite all the suffering. Which is a thing that you get more. You don't get a lot in stuff. I would say that's a definite East-West divide, because of course in the East, where you have Buddhism, one of the big things of Buddhism is you have to accept suffering.
And so, reality.
Yeah, and so one of those, that's what happens when you get like stuff like this, and generally people say, ooh, you don't have to suffer, and eventually the hero in the story says, no, but I have to because I prefer the realness. But when he talks about, I don't sense the reality in this world is like too fake, again because of this idea of Ayato being like a self-insertion for the creator, and his view of himself as an artist. I do almost think that's a kind of like, nah, man, I'm too real for this world, man. My art can only exist in a real place, man. That's me being really harsh.
Yeah, that is. I'd like to distance myself from Lewis's comments.
I don't care. I'm totally saying that. I think it's totally a valid criticism. That is
That's fair enough. I thought they were just doing the standard. Honestly, like you say, if you spent any time watching anime, playing the games, all this sort of stuff, I mean, hell, the amount of times in a game where
when you get
just gone
like India or India, Japan, any place where Buddhism still exists, which is kind of about
the last boss will almost always say to you, "Hey, why not just relax in this fake world? It may be fake, but it's perfect in every other way." And the main character's bad end is to go, "Yeah, all right, sounds fun." And the good end is for you to change the option which says, "Nah, man, I need real. If it's not real, I ain't having it."
Well, it's more about that. It's more about the fact that you don't have like a genuine experience in a place with no suffering. That is the idea. Suffering is part of being alive, and if you actually
Dear
exist in the
Christianity,
world,
we are knocking your idea of heaven.
Well, no, I completely. Yeah, that's one of the things is often so attractive about Buddhism. It's a bit more straight talking, whereas Christianity is suffer through this crap for us, and we'll give you bliss.
Well, no, that's the thing I always notice with this sort of arc and this plot point in any Western or Eastern thing. Whenever it comes up, because you say it never comes up in like Western stuff, it does a bit.
Yeah, it does a bit.
It does a bit, but like most of the times, when Western perceives heaven or the sort of the positive afterlife to whatever religion you're going for, it's usually a case of, well, it's like life, except there isn't any suffering or hardship or pain. And then it's basically saying, heaven is the idea that it's, their hell of it's all perfect and it doesn't feel real. I quite like the difference between the ideas there. And I think it'd be nice to sort of put all these characters in sort of a Western show where finally their reward is that after they've gone through all the hardship and pain, they go, "Well done. Now you can come to the embrace of the Creator in heaven." And then just cuts to 10 minutes later, and it's the main character going, "This shit ain't real! I want to go back to the suffering!"
Like I say, this isn't like a hard and fast rule. Like there's exceptions in both. But I would say in like super general ways. What happens is with in the Eastern one, they say, this isn't real life. To really live, you have to exist in like a dyad between suffering and not suffering. But in Western ones, where you're pulled unwilling into a blissful environment that has no suffering in it, they reject it because of duty. Sort of, I'd love to stay, dude, but I've got to help my friend.
I'd love to. Yeah, they have visions of their friends needing them.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
Doesn't that happen? Isn't that like the...
Absolutely. I can, just to name a few, Buffy.
Yeah, Buffy.
Supernatural. Supernatural did that as well, of we're in heaven now, but we need to come back to help everyone else.
Okay, but yes, as she... So you goes, well, you've got to... If you want to go back to the world full of suffering, says Ishtal, I'm just going to have to show you the most horrible suffering it is, which is pulling a cylinder out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Which is relevant. This is one of the few parts of the dream which I think is actually relevant.
Yes.
But we'll see it only a little later. But she pulls this whole freaking cylinder out of his mouth, and the RahXephon cockpit rises out of like a fountain that was nearby. You were going to say something?
I was going to say just one thing before we moved off the topic that we've just moved off of.
Yeah.
I just thought, actually, Better Than Life, Red Dwarf.
Yeah.
That is exactly the opposite of what we were just saying. That is a Western show that gives people a perfect world where everything they want to happen happens, and they choose to come back to reality and suffering, and it isn't out of duty. It's just
Red Dwarf does it the other way. But in all fairness, I would say the main reason for that is because you die.
You do die, but that's the
Better
question.
Than Life kills you.
Yes, Better Than Life kills you because you're, but it's basically a case of, would you rather have your perfect life for about 4 or 5 years as you waste away, or would you rather be, 3 million years from Earth on a ship full of twats?
No, I still think Red Dwarf follows the regular Christian idea in that, it's the reason you leave paradise is because it is actually secretly harmful. This is a false paradise. That happens as well. That happens well everywhere. That's more of a universal one of the false paradise. You find somewhere that's great, but it turns out not to be great.
Frankly, I still don't see why you couldn't just put them in harnesses that exercise their muscles and, feed them.
Well, that's the dream. The moment
that's the dream! AR, where people keep our real bodies working fine and feed us while we go into AR.
Become a brain in a jar in AR.
A brain in a jar constantly rejuvenating, and as such with an infinite lifespan.
But anyway, there's no reason to talk about fabulous things and turn this very freaking podcast into what we're talking about. Of variously going, wouldn't it be lovely?
Okay, wait. When we go back to the episode, the problem is that it's actually, if we went off on this sort of stupid tangent on any of the other episodes, we'd go, oh god, we're really going to have to cut down because the time we're going so over.
Yeah,
we've got space to fill.
We've got space to fill with this episode because it's just. Nah.
Okay, we've basically finished it for a start. This is the short. We've finished this episode in less than half an hour before edit.
Yeah,
that's what's really awful.
No, brilliant. That's exactly. It's about time.
Yeah, true.
So anyway,
we should get a fucking act together.
When R2 assumes control of the RahXephon, which has a freaking cylinder in its mouth, the Dolom is like stabbing it in the mouth with something. It pulls it out, and unsurprisingly,
it doesn't pull it out. It just grabs it. It explodes.
And explodes, and then punches it to death or whatever.
It's like, no, you've grabbed it and you have metaphorically pulled it out in the dream.
Yeah.
So I'll explode now.
Yeah. So RahXephon punches it to death, as per usual. The Dolom explodes in the shape of a butterfly, so I thought this was continuing the whole butterfly theme. And then, we end on a shot of Quan being ill, being looked after by lots of people, being hooked up to various bleep machines.
Yeah, so it looks like RahXephon coming back didn't fix her.
Yeah, and this episode ends, and, what a massive waste of an episode it is.
Yeah.
We could have had another beach episode.
There's a couple of points that I think might be worth making. One of which is Asahina. They're coming onto him. With Asahina, he's sort of like getting breasts slightly pressed to his back, and he's getting hand-holding, and he's getting, why don't you just give me a kiss? And with Haruka, it's, fuck me on a bench, in full view of everyone. I mean, I'm not...
That's because he wants Haruka a lot more.
That's what I'm saying here. I think that's one of the only things that's really worth pointing out is it's basically in one of them, it's like Asahino's coming onto him and he's like, I quite like the attention, but he's not really going to do anything. And with Haruka, it's just, I really do like Haruka, but I don't really want to accept that. Yeah, that's the only thing this episode really does, is it forces him to address his sexual attraction to Haruka.
A little. He's still a teenager, so his idea of addressing that sexual attraction is to go,
yeah.
But true. Hey, we were all teenagers.
Yeah, I mean, don't like to think about it.
Yeah, no one likes to think about when they were a teenager. Everyone was awkward and weird.
So
no, I wasn't. I was a total hound. But no.
We've said it before, and we really should say it again.
Yeah.
This episode is pointless. It's kind of dull, really, as well.
Yeah, the dream world isn't that interesting, really, is it? It's not really that scary.
There are certain parts that are interesting, and there are certain parts that are right.
There's an exploding penguin.
There is an exploding penguin. Oh, and actually, the woman who keeps appearing in this white background thing does get ripped in half, and you do see it for a brief second.
Yeah, well, of course, all the Dolan pilots
being
die
ripped in half. But yeah, that was one thing. Was what we were saying was that this is like one of the first episodes to actually justify the 15 rating of this series. I mean, I think it was a 12, but it finally got above PG, is what I'm saying here.
Yeah,
because you had the provocative DVD, feeling, and yeah.
Because, of course, I've got the individual DVDs. I don't have a box set.
Yeah, you do.
Is rated PG. Anyway, that was episode 11. And I think we can all agree it's kind of a waste of time.
Before we get to the intermission, we were watching the opening, and Holly raised the point of, why does that statue have pubic hair?
Or does the statue in the opening have pubic hair?
Well, I went back to have a look after she said this, and I think it's a shadow, but it really does seem to have it. If you can get an image of it somewhere, yeah, the statue, because it does do a full pan from feet to head at the beginning.
What? Oh, right at the start?
Right at the start, that statue. The statue that is the statue on Terra's symbol, when you see the actual statue itself, the shadow itself does seem to be heavily hinting at...
Okay, I've got it up on YouTube now. Nah, it just looks like a shadow. I see what you mean. It looks like a Brazilian, but actually that looks like what's the word? A little shadow... like in the thighs or whatever, but yeah, it can look like a whatchamacallit. I
think it's a shadow, but
really. So, and even then, there's lots of statues that have pubic hair
and genitals on display. So yeah, it wasn't really a thing. It was mostly we were just trying to find something to put on this page to talk about this episode. Right. So next, after episode 11, we have Lewis drinking Ramune. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
So Lewis, go and get your Ramune.
I've got Ramune right now, and I'm just going to open it.
Which one is today's Ramune?
Today's, well, you actually picked, for the last episode, the most unusual one, which was the lychee flavour. And so I had a choice between orange and strawberry, so I went with orange, so it would at least have strawberry, which is, not super common in the world of soft drinks. So I'll give the arguably quite boring orange, but who knows? Very often in Asia, things like sweetness and things are perceived differently. So... it's got a usual sort of packaging, fun marble drink Ramune, carbonated soft drink, orange flavour. Got a picture of an orange somewhere in like the bottom left, but the rest looks the same, and the packaging is changed to look orange. This one, unlike the regular ones that I've got, which have Ramune written in Japanese sort of straight down as the main one, the biggest typeface is actually the English spelling of Ramune on this one. But let's have a little taste. Yep, in the same way that regular Ramune is like a less sickly version of Sprite.
Less sickly Fanta?
Yeah, I might go with that. Fanta has a lot more kick than this. This is quite subdued. No, yeah, not too bad at all. Again, as always, I'd prefer this to like Fanta because it's just quieter and nicer.
Not as syrupy.
Not as syrupy, and it has a nice little marble in it that I'll break open and get later.
So, out of 5 then, that's the usual question. Out of 5 for orange soda.
Oh, out of 5 for the orange one? There was nothing super amazing about it, even though it was pleasant. 3 out of 5.
Cool.
3 or even 2.5 out of 5.
There you go then. That's the word from Lewis. Orange Ramune is mediocre at best.
Pretty much. Get regular Ramune. There's no problem with this. Or get one of the really interesting flavours.
There you go. Well, the next segment we have in our intermission is something that we had the arrival of last week, which is Hugh plays the RahXephon PS2 game. And I think in brackets we've got that really needs a catchier title.
We could try and make that into a Let's Play, really.
Wow, God, you could try, but the thing is...
You'd have to record and edit like a video of you playing it.
Edit me playing it.
And then we'd both watch it and record ourselves looking at it.
Describing it, yeah. I think we could do that in future if we decide we have the time and the energy to do so. But
right now,
right. The first thing I will say is I have played quite a lot of anime tie-in games. I've played the Gantz game, which is pretty much what I was expecting for this, as in you talk to some people, read all the dialogue, make some choices about your life, and then you do the action parts of the TV show. And it is much like that, but the major difference between this and Gantz is that Gantz has guides online of people who tell you what the options are in English.
It's not popular enough for that.
Not only is there not a single guide online, I can't find a single thing that told me what the controls were or what any of the menu options meant.
Oh, this is brilliant.
So,
and just so that people know, we have our friends around who are all into anime. If you had to pick someone who knows the least amount of Japanese,
that would be me.
It would be Hugh.
Yeah, any of the others would do a lot better than me. We have several fluent friends.
Yeah, we have friends who are could properly get around in Japanese.
Yeah, and who've spent time in Japan. We have even a friend who is Japanese who we hang out and chat with regularly.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah, none of these people were around for me to be playing the Japanese-only game with no translations at any point. And I looked online and even see if I could find anyone. And no, there aren't even anybody playing them short of the one video Lewis sent me, which is a guy doing time attack from the menu, so he's not even playing the main game.
Oh, there is the thing of someone playing the main game on YouTube.
Oh, really? I could not find it. Okay.
It must be hidden away somewhere.
Here is my experience of the RahXephon game. So, first of all, when you turn it on, you are treated to the opening of RahXephon. It really does just take the opening of RahXephon and put it up again. At which point, you open with Ayato on his 17th birthday, where his mother has made him a cake, and Asahina and Mamoru have turned up at his house.
I call this a dream already.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, okay, this isn't from the anime, but okay, let's go with this. And they're all just sitting around and chatting in Japanese. I honestly can't tell you what it's about. At which point, it then lets me control Ayato. And the first thing I notice is that I've got something called Katun. Katun. What in the hell is Katun? I don't know, but I've got 200 of it, whatever it is. So it seems to be money, but I'm not really sure. So the first thing I tried was I tried talking to the person nearest to me, my mother. My mother's option has the Katun symbol and minus 600 next to it. So it appears that my mother will not talk to me unless I give her 600 money. So that was rather odd.
Want to have a heart-to-heart, boy? Cough up.
Exactly. So then I talked to Mamoru. By talking to Mamoru, I got some of this Katun. So I thought maybe it is money, and Mamoru's just giving me it as a birthday thing. Mamoru, by the way, keeps shifting from I'm looking normal to I am the most sinister being face. He kept changing his face to be like, I fucking hate you and I'll kill you in your sleep. When it's so unsubtle about how incredibly evil he is who hates you. Then I spoke to Asahina, who also gave me some Katun. I then looked at my birthday cake. At which point I then looked around the room and found that I could also look at the picture of Mishima that's covered up in the corner. And then I ran out of ideas because I could not find a single thing in the room to interact with, and my mother still won't talk to me until I have 600, and I currently have 480 Katun and no idea how to make more. At which point I tried to leave the room to see if that would help. As soon as I got near the door, my mother yelled at me, and I had to come back in. I then ran around the room again, looking for something to do, and unfortunately there was nothing I could do whatsoever. I was stuck in a room with my two best friends, my mother, a cake and a painting, and no idea how to get out of this hell. So after a while, I gave up and looked online and found no help. Not a single thing online would tell me how to get out of the conundrum of being stuck in a room after the opening credits.
When you have no Katun!
Exactly. I couldn't even work out what the fuck Katun was. So, after a while, I just tried pressing everything I could think of, and eventually, while talking, when you speak to one of the people, it comes up with a little option for dialogue, and I was hoping that more of those might appear if I went and looked at other things like the cake. And eventually, while that menu was up, I accidentally pressed the directional button to the side, and it turns out that when you talk to someone, you can change what you're looking at, and that means you can talk to them about that thing!
Ah.
At which point, I immediately said, Mamoru, I have a cake. Mamoru, look at Asahina. Mamoru, this is my mother. Mamoru, there is a painting. Asahina, there is a painting. Asahina, there is a cake. Asahina, there is a Mamoru. Asahina, who is my mother. At which point, I had enough money to tell my mother, please, for God's sake, talk to me and let me out of this room.
At this point, I'd like to say that this really does a good way of simulating Ayato's relationship with his mother.
I know. Mother, can we have a conversation about something? Well, Ayato, have you gathered all of this random quest item I've given you before I will speak to you? Yeah. At which point, I finally managed to talk to my mother about this, and the conversation that apparently I had to pay for was her sending my friends home. At which point, she also then removed the cake. There wasn't a scene in which anyone ate any of the cake. The cake and the whole table itself just disappeared.
It's probably one of those plastic cakes.
I was back in the same exact room. My mother had not moved, but the table had disappeared, and in its place, my easel was set up, and the paint, everything was splattered all over the floor. At which point, I then had to look at the paint supplies. I had to look at my mother. I had to talk to my mother about the paint supplies. At which point, I then spoke to her again. And so at this point, I was sort of going, what's going on here? This is just a bit odd now. And then Ayato proceeded to leave his house. As soon as I opened the door, now, you know her assistants, the guy in glasses and the woman who are both in SDF uniforms who hang out? Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're waiting for me outside my home. And they pull a gun at me.
Oh.
So, you know that scene in the subway where the two random generic dudes in shades pull a gun on you?
Yeah, it's them this time.
They have that scene. They have that exact scene, but with these characters, where the girl pulls the gun on you instead, and your mother is in the building behind you. I have no idea why they felt it necessary to point a gun at me when my mother is there. They could have just gone, Lady Maya, could you tell him to come with us for some reason? I don't even know what they're saying, of course. I don't know. At which point, Haruka runs up and kicks the shit out of both of them.
Nice.
In the same way as in the anime. I was going, okay, so we're expediting the whole of the first couple of episodes to this one scene then, are we? At which point, Haruka pulls a gun on me and points it at my head and tells me to go with her. So they also seem to have decided that Haruka likes to pull guns on you as well. At which point, we went to the Shrine of Zephon. Mishima not taking you. This time it's Haruka who takes you. And then we immediately round a corner and have Mishima talk to us. Now, this is weird because we are now having a conversation between Haruka, Mishima, and Ayato. Now, I'm well aware we haven't covered why that's weird in the show so far, but that's fucking weird! And then nobody mentions how weird this is!
Yeah.
At which point, they then decide that they've got all the people in the right room to just show the anime again. And we just have the anime scene of him getting in the RahXephon, protecting Haruka, Mishima being on his shoulder, and his mum getting hit in the face and bleeding blue.
Oh.
At which point, you then fire up into the sky, and Mishima gives you the tutorial on the first fight you have in the RahXephon. Now, it was an interesting thing, because so far the game has simulated how frustrating it is to be Ayato, how frustrating it is to be Ayato and talk to Ayato's mother, and now it manages to show you quite why Ayato just punches everything in the fucking RahXephon, because all of the buttons are basically move around, and the circle button is to fire lasers, which costs you Catan. So it seems to cost him money to fire his lasers from the fingertips of the machine, and square is punch. And that's it. You basically, you have X as dodge, but you can either spend all your money firing lasers at people, which by the way does fuck all damage, or you can run up and punch a guy repeatedly in the face. So I went and I punched the guy repeatedly in the face, at which point it immediately then had a weird cut of all of episodes like 3 and 4 with Haruka. It essentially had Haruka logging in to submit her report when she got back to Terra, and that's how they summarised the entire thing up to the point where they're on the ship. All the stuff with Haruka finding Bucci and living on the ship and everything. Haruka just reports that, well, we got there, and then we showed cutscenes from the anime, and then we went back on the ship. And Itsuki's on the ship for some reason as well. At which point I discovered that if you try to talk to Itsuki about Haruka, it actually lowers your relationship with Haruka. Which I thought was vaguely interesting. And that was when I realised that I actually had the entire ship to explore, and I thought, you know what? I have enough material now for episode 1 of Hugh Plays, this incredibly confusing Japanese PS3 game from 10 years ago.
PS2 game, surely?
PS2 game, yes, sorry. So I decided to try and work out what the menu options were, and luckily I found save before I found load and return to title screen without saving. So I will try and continue playing for next time, but so far I actually quite enjoyed the combat. The combat was fun. You just really have to dodge all of the stupid lasers fired by all of the dolems and get close enough to punch the dude in the face. I'm hoping
rich dolems don't need to spend Catan to use them.
I know. They don't need to worry about where theirs is coming from. But yeah, I do think it does seem like it'd be a fun game, and the bit I'm dreading is the bit where it gives me the option to customize the RahXephon, because that is something I did see on the YouTube clip, the guy choosing his packs of what to take with him, because I'm going to have no fucking clue whatsoever about what I'm taking out, whether it be the bow and arrow, the shield, the sword, or just punch the dude in the face. So, yes, we can certainly look forward to my further failings at being Ayato next time. For now, should we get to episode 12 then?
Yes, but your opinion on it so far?
I like it. I do. I think it'd be nice if I knew this is the plot. And honestly, trying to play a plot-based, dialogue-based game when you don't speak the language it's in is kind of a bit of a bore. Like, I did keep wanting to skip all the scenes because there is a skip scene button, but I thought if I don't have the material in order to tell you why I was fighting in a dolem, it is just going to be me saying, so the gameplay, and that just seemed less fun. So, yeah, I think if I had one of us people who knows Japanese with me who could tell me what was happening, or there was a thing online just telling you what all the options you had were, I'd probably be enjoying it more. But frankly, I actually think the fights are pretty well done. The animation's not bad. They keep throwing in bits of the anime, which is also fine. And other than having a very confusing, unexplained thing, I have enjoyed it. So yeah.
Is it fully voice acted?
It is. It is fully voice acted, and when you are up next week, you will have to tell me if it's the actual original voice actors or not, because I didn't seem to be able to find that online.
Right. And so, intermission done?
Yes.
Because, of course, we need to pad out the length of these episodes even more.
Oh, I know. It's not like we're already hitting 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah. We now are moving on to episode 12, which in which more stuff happens, but,
This is also kind of a trippy episode, in that it doesn't really tell you what's going on. We, as people who know the ending, kind of know what's going on, and it is actually, I think it is possible. I was trying to watch this as if I hadn't seen all of what I've seen, and I do think it is possible to work out what's going on, and it is possible to sort of know what's vaguely happening and get an idea of it. But I did watch this with Holly, who hasn't seen any of it, and I was explaining at the end who people were, what their motivations were, and reminding her of previous bits in the show that might be relevant. While I think it's trippy, it's not like the last episode where it's trippy that doesn't matter. It's trippy as in the same sort of trippy as when Ichli and Kwon are talking, and you know it's all relevant, but they're talking such bullshit.
Yeah.
You have no idea why.
Well, let's get to the point.
So this episode for me is called Resonance.
Yes, oh yes. This episode for you is called Resonance. For me, it is called The Black Egg, Koroi Tamago. Kwon is being observed in hospital, it seems. She's been moved from Itsuki's house into, like, the Terra medical building, or whatever it is that Itsuki does all of his medical things.
Yes, because, of course, he's not, a doctor of sound, which is what he actually is.
Yeah.
His wonderful medical degree in orchestra.
And so Ayato is looking at Kwon when Sayako turns up and sort of says, ooh, maybe you should kiss her and wake her up, Prince Charlie.
She's like, I've seen Evangelion. Girls in coma is exactly when sexual assault's meant to happen.
Yeah, that was the thing. If this was really Evangelion, of course we all know what he would really do to her in this situation.
Yeah, exactly. But this is Ayato, and Ayato is not a prick.
Yeah, not a total prick.
I like Hayato. I know we've said it before, but for the most part, other than occasionally being a bit of a teenager, I like him.
Yeah.
And I certainly, if there wasn't Tokyo Jupiter and Ayato was 29 through the whole show, I like 29-year-old Ayato. I think he would have been a cool guy without any of the annoying prickness of teenage Ayato.
Yep, I'd have to agree with you there. We then sort of cut to somewhere else in the world. We cut to sort of what I am going to assume is South America. We never really get a hint, but we all know what mythology this thing is aping. It's going to be South America.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the South American continent. My apologies, all the many countries of South America. It is not super clear. And
we are just going to group you into one.
Yeah.
If your country has some sort of Mayan or Aztec pyramid in it, might be you.
Although again, I just realised we could also be Central America.
Yeah, entirely possible.
Yeah. So
apologies
both Central and South America. It's not
it
anywhere
isn't
in
Stevenage. So our apologies to Stevenage for not being relevant at all.
Yes.
Once again.
One of these days, Stevenage, you'll be relevant.
Your time will come.
Maybe Doctor Who will set an episode in Stevenage.
Yeah.
Maybe. So we're in South America, and we see perhaps the most stereotypical looking photographer ever. He's got like the sleeveless jacket full of pockets, and he's got holding a camera. He's got sunglasses, and he walks up to a beautiful lady, and he says, "You know something? I've never read or watched Higurashi no Nako Koroni, so I have no fear. Take me to the unusual place outside your village where totally unusual things happen."
Yeah, because the thing is, she doesn't do that. What she does is she drops him off at the foot of a mountain.
Well, no, that's later.
Is it?
Yeah,
that's right. I thought it was that scene. Fine, okay. Well, just to get, we're not even jumping the gun particularly here, but she drives him to the mountain.
Okay, well.
In our defence here, it's a fucking mountain.
It is a mountain.
He goes to the locals and goes, "Could I have directions
to the mountain?" And
then they go, "You mean that one that we can all see? That even in the scene when you're hiring a guide, it is in the background of that scene." Yeah.
Well,
rent a fucking Jeep, you lazy sod.
There is no dialogue in these scenes, so what is perhaps happening is he's asking for a lift. But even then, I still say he is basically going, "I've never read Higurashi. I don't think I'm going to be murdered.
I have a name and everything. It's just that no one's mentioned it. That's not worrying at all."
Yeah, that's not worrying at all. Do you want to do the rest of his scenes before we...
Actually, yeah, do you know what? You remember when it was flicking between shit in a few episodes ago, and I said, "Look, let's just do all of one and then all of the other."
Yeah.
I genuinely think if there's no reason why it needs to be chronological, we may as well cut the episodes up into sections like this.
Yeah.
So
then he travels to the top of this mountain and sets up some camera work and starts photographing a dig site there, which is excavating some clearly Aztecian-looking pyramids and ruins.
Also, while he's photoing it, he's also set up a camera on a tripod automatically filming everything, which, to me, was redundant. Why are you filming it and also photoing it?
Maybe he'll get something if he's videoing it, because he's regular photographing it.
Possibly, but it just seemed like a lot of luggage to, lug up a mountain, realistically speaking. And, yeah. Also, if you're going to take photographs of a secret base in some way, do you know what I would do? I would definitely rig it so, like Google updates your photos and syncs them with online.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, this was not made at that time where that's even possible, but...
It's meant to be set these days.
I know it's meant to be set these days.
In the late 2020s.
But you got to remember this was made in like the early 2000s.
2003.
And
where there was the internet, there was Wi-Fi, and there was mobile phones.
There was Wi-Fi, there was mobile phones, but there wasn't this idea of, sort of cloud storage that exists today.
Alright, fine.
It is weird, isn't it, how, what seems to be advanced then just seems incredibly inefficient if we actually made it today. Like how every sort of old-style sci-fi has a big central computer, and we're all like, that's dumb. Why would you have that?
That's really fucking dumb. Why do you have that?
Why don't you have a network series of computers?
Yeah, and also, why don't you have everything in 3 separate places in case of, some sort of accident?
Yeah. Oh no, the computer's been destroyed. All the data has been lost.
No, quickly, you have to destroy the data. Put that computer in the microwave, and you go, cloud. It's all stored on the cloud, mate. What's the fucking point of me microwaving my computer? Oh, well, at least then we'll destroy all the hard copies. Nah, it's also automatically synced with 2 other servers in different countries as well. That's common practice for business these days.
Bugger.
So, yeah. No, it's like, the scene in Fight Club at the end when they destroy all of the buildings.
Yeah, that wouldn't work.
Which house all the servers which hold all the information about the bank's credit
card
about
companies.
who owes what to the banks. And the whole point is we're going to reset the system. We're going to take away all the records of who owes what to whom, and then everyone just starts fresh with a clean slate. And at this point, it's just like, you did so much property damage, but in the end, that's all in the cloud. Just doesn't work. Sorry. These days, Fight Club would instead be him uploading a virus to the internet, which seeks out that data. And yeah, that's slightly less a climactic ending.
Anyway, so the guy on top of the mountain is recording everything.
And then the most unexpected thing you will ever hear happens.
Yeah, there is a gunshot. He falls down. He falls down as the tripod falls down, and from the point of view of this camera, we see that, oh no, the person who probably killed him was the person who gave him directions in the first place.
We
gave him a lift as well. Oh no.
This is why you shouldn't base your choice of guide on who looks hot and you'd like to chat up on the way, and instead base it on who is the most trustworthy person you can possibly imagine, or frail enough that you don't think they could kill you. They're the two options. If I ever ask someone to guide me to an isolated place where I could be killed, I am making sure that I only ask people I'm sure I could kill in a fight.
And so as a result of this, we then are introduced to Helena.
Who is an interesting character.
A very interesting character. Perhaps my second favourite character after Elby.
I do like Helena. Helena is everything straight-laced about her. She
looks like, for those who perhaps aren't watching along with us, she looks like, who was it in the Turks in Final Fantasy VII? Is it Elaine?
Yes. Elaine, yes.
She looks a lot like Elaine from the Turks.
She's the consummate professional.
Yeah, she's incredibly the consummate professional, and she reports to her boss, who is totally not, because he is sitting in his office, which consists entirely of just his symbol glowing on the floor, and a child version of her. Yeah,
now, at first, you might think, maybe that's her sister, maybe that's her daughter, maybe in some way, because she's definitely aware of it being there, and he is also, in a not at all, subtle way, using this to control her, really, and, make like, ha, look how much power I've got over you. Yeah, it's not, it's really her. It's just, like, the child teleports, and there's also a scene, slightly, where he's stroking the head of the child, who's invisible.
Yeah.
The child isn't there, and he's caressing the hair, and then it just cuts back, and the child suddenly appeared in his lap, in like a millisecond. So, yeah, it's definitely a weird one, really, that's not quite explained at this point.
But anyway, we see that, and she just reports the usual bad guy thing to say when when someone's been caught and killed on your secret base. He says, a dog has wandered in. And you get the usual sort of, and why did you tell me? And he goes, meh. And that was it.
Yeah. It is also Eleanor. I have looked it up. And yeah, she does look like Eleanor, just with a slightly different hairstyle.
Or indeed, oh no, not her older sister.
Whose older sister?
There's a character. Oh god, if we're going to go into this, there's a character in Before Crisis where you play as the Turks, who is Eleanor's older sister, who's called Emma, and I just looked her up, and she's not
okay.
She's not similar at all.
Anyway, to those of you who haven't played Eleanor's Final Fantasy section, or whose Final Fantasy section they just remember as being a blonde block character, because frankly, if you haven't seen her in Advent Children or
artwork,
artwork, you might just know her as that small blonde pixel block. Yeah, she's basically a consummate professional. Very much everything is neat and in order about her. Also quite old-fashioned, I think, her dress, personally. So, yeah, she's clearly quite capable. She's doing the organisation. She's senior enough that she seems to be in charge of things. And he's creepily caressing a child version of her.
Yeah. And that's pretty much all that happens. She just reports to him, and he kind of just goes, meh.
He just goes, I don't really care, but look at this child version of you. Yeah, it's just fucking creepy. Really.
And just make sure we do interact that the old guy is Barnum, the head of the Barnum Foundation that we saw in earlier episodes.
Yeah, he's just generally fucking creepy.
So yeah, meanwhile, while Quan has been lying in her hospital room, she's been looked after by Sayoko. That's a little boring. So Sayoko has sex with Makoto in the same room.
Yeah.
We don't see anything. It's the usual sort of, they're just getting dressed afterwards. And then She says, "Do you think she saw us?"
Did you think she enjoyed the show we just put on for her?
No, that's not how it was said in the Japanese one. In the English one, she says, "The show." Either way, it's sort of like, "Do you think she saw?" Oh, and enjoyed, so it implies that she saw. God, that's much nastier in the English version. In the Japanese one, it's like, "Did she see?" And Makoto's like, "Even if she does see, it doesn't make a difference." And
yeah, no, I was just saying that this is also like one of the there's a weird thing to say after sex. It's, "This will help him, right?"
Yeah,
which she does say immediately after
always,
sex.
We don't know why, and it is quite clearly like the way Makoto's using her is quite clearly like sexual abuse. He's sort of like, having sex with me, and then I will use my thing to help everyone. I can only assume it's help Itsuki, because who else would Sayako want to help?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, but no, it's already been heavily implied that it is Itsuki, so it's not outright stated.
Yeah, and so with that, Makoto heads off, just in time for Haruka to see Makoto leave and to notice Sayako come out as well. And if that wasn't obvious enough, Sayako immediately also turns to Haruka and just sort of says, "Do you have any spare stockings?" Of course, we all know from coupling that there are only 3 sets of stockings in the world. So a woman asking this for another woman is basically saying, "I've destroyed one of the only pairs of stockings in the world.
We're going to have to order some new ones.
We need to have more."
Now, the thing is, though, I actually think that this is basically, it's not like Haruka knew immediately.
Yeah, she just
Haruka knew immediately, and
she says, "Why?"
The thing is, Sayako knew that she knew. She knew. So if they did know, yeah, whatever. But the thing is, instead of, I think the thing Sayako's chosen to do here is, instead of being embarrassed or trying to hide it or deny it or anything like that, she just fucking owns it. That's the thing. She's like, "Nope, yep, totally, this is my thing now, that I fuck random members of
not random.
The senior staff
I wouldn't say
in the same room as Coma Girls."
I would not say it's random.
No,
Makoto has a high position.
Yes, fine. Just senior members of the staff then in rooms with Coma Girls in them.
Yeah.
It's my new thing.
But the thing with this is, right, I saw that, and maybe it's the difference between the Japanese and the English one. She seems to like hint about, we all have to do certain things. And for me, it was so almost like she was saying, "I know you fancy that 17-year-old. So before you start talking to me about sleeping with other members of the staff, maybe you should stop salivating over that 17-year-old boy."
See, in the English, the conversation is more going, she says, "I thought we were friends." And she's like, "Well, there are certain things you don't talk about, even with your friends, like, yeah." So the implication is basically, you don't talk about your sex life with your friends in the English. But there's not really any sort of hint about it being specifically about Ayato, I didn't feel. But the thing I was just immediately wrote down was, they're friends? The thing is, right, it's sort of vaguely been implied the whole time that Haruka has tried to be friends with her.
Yeah.
But honestly, when she says, "I thought we were friends," it's like, you don't. Nobody thinks you're friends.
Yeah,
everyone is fully aware of this.
She doesn't say anything even vaguely close to that in the Japanese one, as far as I'm
just
aware.
Goes straight back to the scenes in the episode where Sayako gets encased in ice. Right before that happens, when they're sitting on the benches and they're talking about, like, "Oh, he loves you, but I love him," and all this sort of bullshit. And it's like, they're not friends! They've never been friends. I don't think they've ever even hung out outside of work. And I know that to Haruka, outside of work is, a mythical land that she's not really sure really exists. But even so, I mean, I do not understand how Haruka can still say things like, "I thought we were friends," in a straight face.
Yeah. I mean, she's friends with Elvie. She ain't friends with...
She and Elvie go out.
They
get drunk. They go out to dinner. They talk about stuff, It's what they do. But no, she doesn't seem to have ever had any relationship with Sayako of any depth.
So, after that, she sort of wanders away. Haruka bumps into Ayato in the lift. One interesting thing about this lift is that it's perhaps the first time you can see what terror means. You see the what terror is an acronym for, so you can see the bad Esperanto that I mentioned in the first episode.
Yeah.
that means nothing. It is just Esperanto-sounding gibberish. And so they try and have a conversation, but Ayato remembers the time when he, in a dream, grabbed her boob, and that makes him all uncomfortable, because teenager, and so has to run away.
The other thing about this lift is that you can't be in this lift without standing in the exact centre so that when the camera looks in the lift, you have wings. Because on the back, there are wings. So, yeah, when the lift first has Ayato in it, it is Ayato with wings and going, oh, look, implications there, Ayato has wings. And then Ayato goes, oh my god, it's that girl that I fantasized about feeling... The thing I would say here, though, is if every teenage boy got embarrassed around any woman that he's fantasized about feeling the breasts of, teenage boys would never be around any woman, ever. Just ever.
I'll bow to your wisdom on this.
Fair enough. Oh, come on, no. You're not saying if you were 17 and Haruka was around that you wouldn't have thought like that.
Well, I'm a legs man, so...
Alright, fair
Doesn't really...
enough.
I'm just the fact of, what, really? Fantasize about lots of ladies' boobs? Not really. It's just not for me.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, we'll agree to...
But this is a Japanese show, and the
here.
Japanese love their boobs. So I can totally believe it in... If everyone acted like Ayato in Japan, yeah, that would be hard, in more ways than one.
Oh, really? Yeah, I did... The thing is, I wasn't entirely sure whether... Is he ashamed of, like... having
it gave him like a mental flashback, not like a
exactly,
serious like flashback, but like a
oh god, yeah, there was that thing. That's the thing I was thinking there was okay, so is he embarrassed? Is he ashamed? Is he accidentally thinking about feeling her breasts, and is he now aroused and just really like, I have to hide my erection and leave?
Wouldn't surprise me.
Well, no, it wouldn't surprise me either. One thing I would say is, right, here is when I think, because, I basically see that he's been attracted to Haruka since the beginning.
Yeah.
But he's pretty much gone, no, she's too old for me, straight away. And I think I like that the only thing that I think the previous episode did was to highlight the fact that he is attracted to Haruka. And it forces him to deal with it.
Yeah.
I do like that. I do think that that's a good thing to have done.
From the last episode, yeah.
Exactly. It's the only good thing I think the last episode did, but it is a good thing. It has basically said that Hayato is attracted to Haruka. He's basically been ignoring it and pretending that it's not real. And now he can't do that anymore. He's now going to have to accept either that he likes her in a physical way and a romantic way as well, or he's going to have to just write it off, really.
Yeah.
But either way, he's going to have to do something.
Or he won't be able to function properly anymore.
And everyone knows you need your Ayato fully functional.
Alright, after this unfortunate thing, Haruka obviously feels a bit down because, gentleman that she quite fancies just ran away from her in a lift. Couldn't even stand to be in a lift with her. Terrible. So she goes and she happens to see Kim and the Major talking, and they explain, some people from the Barnum Foundation are heading to have a look at Kwan. Ooh, really? And she's like, ooh, the Barnum Foundation are interested in Kwan? Ooh. We now have a few, random scenes where, first of all, Ayato is home, and he's dragged out of his home by Joshi. I shouldn't try pronouncing his first name, just Futagami, because Futagami's the cool part of his name. So he's dragged out of his room by Futagami, the reporter. But before we see exactly what happens, we then have a nice little character building thing with Alpha Squadron. And Elvie, in this scene, says the thing that we have all been thinking, which is, yeah, we kind of suck.
We don't really do anything.
We have no success rate, and she straight up calls themselves, aren't we just glorified support staff? To which everyone who's watching the show goes, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that's pretty much it. But hopefully this will lead to something later on. But yeah, that's about it. There's a little bit, a cool bit of the American and the elder guy sort of chatting and having a bit of a, what was it, his name? June Patrick and Kathy have a bit of an arm wrestle. And Donnie Wong sort of goes, hey, I can run. We don't really actually have a set for Alpha Squadron because we're so useless. So I was just running around the place where we also sit around.
Yeah, it seems to be the cafeteria.
Yeah, I was running around the cafeteria because Alpha Squadron isn't really given a lot of stuff. Got to turn it all over to place to store the RahXephon in.
The thing I would say is, though, just before we move off Alpha Squad, I like Alpha Squad.
I like Alpha Squad.
Alpha Squad, the main thing they are is fun. They are happy people, they are fun, they are enjoyable to be around, and that I like.
And they're fighter pilots, they're cool.
Well, yeah, exactly. they have cool jobs and do cool things, but most part, I just think they're just fun people.
Oh yes, this is one of the few times we get a bit of character I should mention for Jean Patrick, because he mentions how Kathy should listen to more classical music. She's just like, that's bullshit.
If she has any brains left.
Because she is, of course, American.
In America.
And notice she's America. Like, I listen to American music. And, you know, if we had better affiliates on this podcast, I'd switch to an Ameritage. We just play the American national anthem with hard rock. But no, instead we cut to Futagami doing the one useful thing of this episode that really stands out. Where he shows, you know, I've got a picture of these people. And Archer's like,
the people that betrayed humanity.
Yeah, the people that betrayed humanity. Now, does he say humanity in the English one?
No, he says the world, I think.
He says the world in the English one, which makes sense, but I wrote it down in the notes as humanity, but I noticed that he really, I would have said humanity. You know, in both versions they say the world, but no, I think this needs to be cut, because that's just waffling. Anyway, he passes this photo to Ayato, and he goes, the person there was one of the, you know, bigwigs in the Secretary of Defense. And the person next to him, and Ayato looks at this picture, we still haven't seen it, and he's like, oh, and on the picture is not just his mother, but also all of the SDF people we saw from the first episodes who were releasing the Dolem. They are all there. And so we get this very clear image now that these people, who of course were a long time ago for the people living outside Tokyo Jupiter now, but they're still, you know, it's only been a few years for them inside Tokyo Jupiter. These are the people who sort of sided with the Mulians, who became Mulians, and thus sided with the Mulians and caused the whole Tokyo Jupiter event. So it's a nice way of solidifying something we kind of already knew, but it's nice to have like this sort of very definite of like, yeah, those people you saw at the start that looked all official and would be the backup good guys that have now been replaced by the Terror people. Yeah, they are the bad guys. Just in case you were wondering, they're the Mulians, and they blow up people. Meanwhile, Quan escapes from a hospital.
One thing I do have a minor criticism about this series in general is that they often change scenes in the middle of conversations.
Yeah, they do.
It's like, so Holly was doing catch-up because she wasn't around for the last couple of episodes. So we were watching the one where he's in the fighter pilot machine with Alvi, and Alvi turns to him and goes, so how long are you going to keep piloting? And it does a scene change to Megami and Haruka. Now, it would have been interesting to hear Ayato's answer, and it does that quite a lot. That is the one sort of criticism I have of the show's dialogue, is that it just changes when a character asks a poignant question. Instead of having the answer, or actually, because at that point that's actually a reasonable conversation to keep going with, but no, it just cuts off and doesn't show you the answer of what he thinks or anything like that. And I think the same sort of thing is happening here. For example, it's just a case of, here is a picture of the people who betrayed humanity. Here is this person who was the head of the STF. Here are some other people who were in the STF. And next to him is... And then Ayato answers with a whisper of, my mother. And he would have been very interesting if he had actually finished the sentence he was halfway through and had said, the chief scientist, or the researcher who did that, or just the... We don't even know what his mother's job was. His mother's in charge, but I honestly can't remember what his mother's job was, or why she's in charge, or why she's the head of anything. He shows her the thing. He shows Ayato the thing. But honestly, my question would be, who was she? He only knows her as the person in Tokyo who goes to generic work, doesn't get involved. He doesn't know politics, and he doesn't know the moon, he doesn't know anything that's going on. It's just a case of, he has the information, and he's not asking for it. And I'd really love to have heard what the reporter was about to say the woman was.
Yeah, I think they're not shown because they are not super relevant. I don't think it's too important to know what Ayato's mother is, and I don't think it's too important to know, like in the previous example, Ayato's response to Elvi's question. But I suppose it can seem weird to other people.
I just think
it seems like it's snatching stuff away from you.
It just seems that you've ended a scene 5 seconds too soon.
So Quan escapes from her hospital room, and she meets up with... Could you say their name again? Hugh?
Ishli,
thank you. Okay, so Quan escapes from a hospital room, and she meets up with Ishli, and is shown a vast PowerPoint presentation of previous animation cells that have already existed in the show. That's pretty much it, isn't it? I mean, I thought you were going to say... I paused there because I assumed you were going to say, oh, no, or, yeah, that's pretty much it. But yeah, that's pretty much it, is it?
Well, thinking back on it, there were a lot of reused things, but
that's what you do, man. You want to show stuff, but you got to save. You can't. You've got all this stuff that you make. You can't use it just once.
I don't think that it's... Oh, actually, yes, I do have a note on this. Because, yes, I completely agree. It is Okay, so behind them, they have the flash up of all of these images. You have the Dolems that are fighting. You have the RahXephon. You have all this other stuff. And you have a wind turbine.
Yep, there's a bit of a wind turbine, yeah.
Why is that there? It is so out of place. I'm all for your thing of, yeah, I'm agreeing, they used old scenes there and they did rehash some of it, but honestly, why was there a bloody wind turbine? What possible bloody relevance was that?
That's more of a common sight if you're living in the coast, because they're often set in the sea.
Oh, yeah, sure, but why? We haven't ever looked at a wind turbine until now in the show.
Have we not?
None of the other stuff has been... No, we haven't. I mean, there's nothing relevant that's turned up. They basically said to the animators, right, put in some scenes from the previous bits, and then, I guess, a wind turbine?
It must have been in a previous one. They couldn't have made a friggin' animated thing of a wind turbine.
I think it may have been. There may have been a point where they showed a wind turbine at some time during this show's creation, but I honestly cannot remember seeing that before.
Well, yeah, because it's so... Bleh.
Because it's so bloody stupid and obscure, but genuinely... I do think they may have just grabbed either a random shot they had from earlier, or have actually animated a wind turbine for this scene.
Where's Nabatabe? He's animating this sequence. Hey, Nabatabe, put whatever you want in it. He goes, I just fucking love wind turbines. I'm going to make the most adorable wind turbines.
Amazing.
Watching it at home with his girlfriend at the end. Here's my bit. Wind turbine!
Wind turbine!
And they both got wind turbine. They both got t-shirts on with wind turbines. Are awesome. Maybe that's what really happened.
The other thing is, right, so the lead up to this scene is like Quan walking down the corridor in front of the aquarium, her walking along or standing still in front of the aquarium, and it cuts to like her, and then there's a shark shadow silhouetted moving forward, and then it cuts back to Quan, and there's a manta shadow coming forward. And I was like, oh, is this going to be like an implication that she's the shark and she's just a fish and going to get eaten or anything like that? And it's like, no, the fish and everything are just swimming around behind them in the aquarium. And then there's a big flash of light and the water's empty. I'm just going, did you just kill all the fish? Did you vaporize all of the fish so you'd have a clear screen with which to project bullshit?
So we get this complete bullshit thing, and Ishtal continues to sort of talk to Quan like, hey Quan, you should activate the black egg with RahXephon in it. Ooh.
Yeah, you should totally do that because you're an Odin. And the problem with conversations between these two is, as we've pointed out, both of them have bullshit riddles as their first language.
Yep.
That's the main issue we have with both of them.
Mm.
But the other thing being that the problem is, I was saying this again, I was saying this to Holly afterwards, all of that shit is actually fully relevant, and it all actually makes sense if you know the vague plot. And I also think it makes sense with the background stuff, because what they're basically saying is, the black egg is yours, you're an instrumentalist, you could totally do the retuning of the world.
Yeah, you can totally be a pilot of a RahXephon.
Yeah, you could pilot a RahXephon. By the way, there's another one. It's black. It's over there. Totally go and get it. That's what they're saying here. And it does work. And with the background images, all of their bullshit can be cut through to that basic point.
So the crew still searches for Quan while this is happening.
Mm.
But Ayato, by blind luck of the main character, meets up with Quan while he's just moping in the bay, basically going, oh, that scene with Futagami certainly was cool, but I'm not going to talk about it.
Yeah, he's just like, my mother was a traitor to the world. I guess I already knew that, but
it was kind
looking
of
at a photo of her and hearing someone else be mean about her, that makes me a sad panda.
It's just a sad panda. He hasn't yet reached sad Keanu levels.
Yeah.
So the crew searches for Quan. Ayato meets Quan, and Quan does the usual thing of just saying cryptic stuff, although we kind of understand now a bit of what it is. It's quite clearly trying to get to this egg, trying to get to this thing that Ishtal is guiding her to.
Yeah. She goes, I found it, look at it over there. And it's like, Quan, why are you just singing at the ocean? The ocean is my lover now.
Isn't that right, Ocean?
The ocean says yes.
So yes, there is a new Dolem though, so the alarms go off, and Ayato has to hurry back with Haruka, who immediately finds him when he is needed, because she's learnt from previous things and has installed a tracker on him.
Yeah.
The Shota Track 9000. Is your Shota running away? Do you find it really difficult to keep a track of young children? They often wander around. Well, with the Shota track, you can keep track of those pesky young children. You won't have to worry about them.
You won't even need to have a leash, because leashes, that can get you negative points in the eyes of your friends.
Indeed. But with a tracking device that's unnoticeable and under the skin, you can totally keep on knowing where that underage person that you fancy is.
Just don't let them go in an MRI machine.
When does that happen to Ayato? Oh yeah, all the time.
Oh yeah, all the time. All the damn time.
Anyway, in this period she says, don't wander off, we still can't find Quan. And Ato's like, but Quan was right. She's gone. During this weird period where Ayato sort of turns up and he launches the RahXephon and Alpha Squadron launches early ahead of time, Commander Jin does a brief bit of something useful where he says, hey, other competent person. She goes, my name is Kim. Yeah, Kim. Overlay the weather data over where the dolem is. And he goes, oh, the wind. And he goes, the wind is hitting the dolem. And he goes, well, thanks, Jin. That really informs us. But we're really not sure how this informs you, or how you got that idea in the first place. But still, cheers. Because this will become vaguely relevant later. Not really relevant, and very quickly irrelevant, but whatever.
I did expect that it was going to be a big thing, and that's how the dolem's doing this. Or I was expecting it to be like, the clouds, or the dolem is causing pressure to build up and carry over there, or any of this sort of shit. But no, it's just, the wind's pushing it that way.
It's pushing it that way so that it can't find something.
And I was like, well, what? It doesn't even seem to be relevant to anything. And the whole rest of the episode, I was waiting for it to become a thing.
Waiting for the we kind of get it, and it's all a bit disjointed, this one, because it keeps on, as always keeping saying, it keeps on cutting back and forth. But the things that are applied in this big last bit is Quan turns out to have stowed aboard the RahXephon again. Stowed away aboard the RahXephon for the first time, but still, we're kind of like, I was all sort of not shocked to see her, but of course we kind of should be, because only Ayato can get in.
But we've already established that those who have the credentials, as it was put to Itsuki, can get in, and Quan definitely has the credentials.
Yeah.
And Itsuki close to having them.
Yeah. So she arrives, and this causes Ayato to sort of not be able to tell full attention to the fight.
As in, he doesn't participate. He stands around.
He just stands around.
And just gets absorbed by it.
Alpha Squadron tries to fight the dolem, but again, does nothing.
Yeah, they just keep firing missiles and then going, eat taxpayer money! I mean, they may as well just start throwing yen at it at this point. That's about the effect it has. It's just a case of, you lose the money and the dolem isn't at all injured. Go on, my friends.
Go on. But yes, so the dolem sort of separates into two different bits, and it starts to absorb the RahXephon. And everyone seems really irritated that Ayato isn't doing anything.
Yeah, despite the fact that if he doesn't, he's the one that's going to die. It's I understand when there are the shootouts in cop films or an action film, and they're like, why aren't you helping? We're all going to get shot. But if it's a case of a guy is in a shootout himself and he's not firing back, everyone's safe at home in the office going, hey, we're really angry at you for not doing your fucking job and shooting back.
In all fairness, they won't be safe very soon if he doesn't do anything.
Yeah, fair enough.
Through his interactions with Quan, and we then cut back to Barnum.
Helena and Ernst von Barnum basically have a little bit of a monologue here saying, you haven't properly awakened, so you can't have your egg. No, bad girl.
I think before we say that, Quan starts to use the RahXephon. She straight up says that with the RahXephon, I can use it to gain access to the egg that contains my RahXephon.
Yeah, and we do have the black egg, and we do have a nice silhouette of a black RahXephon inside the egg. The egg is, in fact, exactly like the RahXephon one from the very first episode that we saw break at the beginning, except that it is black.
Yeah, and a sort of a pool of light opens in the RahXephon, and Quan drifts towards it, and in the dig site,
black feathers
reach out of a portal in the sky, trying to get at the egg. By the way, it is hinted that the dolem is looking for the egg, and the reason the strong winds are around is that they keep it somehow. I don't know how they're around, but these winds are lucky they're around because they are knocking the dolem off course and making it hard to find the egg.
That is sort of the implication of what's going on here, but the dolem is near Japan, and not in South America.
In South America.
The way the winds are pushing it is to the southeast, as in towards South America
towards
where
South
the
America,
egg is.
or indeed perhaps maybe other places it could be, like southern India. You could have a ruin like that, or Indonesia.
Yeah, entirely.
Or the Philippines. But even then, so it's like it's pushing it towards it anyway, and just this is just a stupid part.
We can move away. We can move away from the wind aspect of this particular episode.
We should just leave it be because it just makes.
I don't mind this episode, but if somebody knows what the fuck that nonsense about the wind was really about that we've just missed, feel free to email us, and we will issue some sort of formal statement of We didn't notice. We're idiots. But frankly, I just don't get it. I really don't.
Please do tell us if you know. Please let us know in the comments, or indeed in the contact information that will be in the show notes.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, the point is that so we have the RahXephon. We have Quan in it. We have Quan trying to get her egg. But luckily, Helena has electrified the RahXephon egg
somehow, and Helena says, "You're
no, you didn't say the magic word."
Yeah, she pretty much says that.
Yeah, and as such, we've electrified your fucking egg. So, it's once again, it's the Babham Institute knowing way more than any of the characters, than any of the show's, viewers, and generally speaking, having full control over everything.
So while Ayato is trying to deal with this in Quan, he can't control the RahXephon. So the RahXephon is sort of sucked inside, like this separated thing of the Dolem. And I just realised I didn't explain what the Dolem is called, because it's so barely there this episode, but the...
Also looks fucking stupid.
The Dolem does look unusual, but this one is actually called falsetto, which is, of course, a method of voice production used by male singers, particularly tenors, to sing notes higher than their normal range, which is actually quite an important bit of music, but they've given it to a pretty crap Dolem.
I don't like the look of it, because they say, I hate mushrooms, like it's meant to be a mushroom.
Yeah, the bottom bit's meant to look like a mushroom, yeah.
The thing is, it just looks like a really malformed ball sack.
So, like a mushroom.
Dangling down, yeah, I suppose, if you want to say that. But okay.
We've got to take you out to have some Japanese hot pots some of these days.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that'll show you some weird Japanese mushrooms.
I do, actually. Whenever we go out for Japanese food, I always ask for mine without mushrooms. That's probably been a mistake about my education, but a positive about my dinner. So, yeah. Anyway, so at this point...
After all this stuff with the black egg is finished, though, Ayato pretty much regains control of the RahXephon and just...
Ayato goes, "Oh wait, sorry, you wanted me to try?
Yeah.
To try in this fight," and settles it in a millisecond.
Yeah, he cuts his way out.
Yeah, he just goes, "Oh what? Wait, what? I'm in a thing. All right, well, laser sword."
So he now has a laser sword.
Apart. Yeah, well, he had that before. Did
he have it before? Yes, he did. It's not. He's the bow he hasn't got yet. So yes, he cuts his way out with a laser sword.
And it does take him like a second or two. That's it. It's virtually no effort for him to kill this thing. And it really is just a thing. Like the whole time, I personally, if I was in that situation, you wouldn't drop down and try and get Quan, who's happily lying there. You go, "Quan, what are you doing here?" And you just go, "Oh, fuck it." And then you just go and kill the thing really quickly. And then come back to her.
And then deal with Quan.
Yeah, because frankly, leaving yourself and Alpha... Honestly, if Alpha Squadron had suffered a single casualty there...
That would be on Ayato.
That would have been totally on him. Yeah. They would have had massive backlash from the remaining squad members. He would have felt so much guilt. You would have basically had a whole angst few episodes after this. So I'm quite glad no one did. Angst episodes are a little frustrating, particularly if there's a lot of them. But, seriously, Ayato, bad choices, I think, here, in terms of just, you've got your priorities wrong.
And pretty much on that, the episode ends. And Hayato dealing with his bad priorities. Quan sort of wakes up, still in the RahXephon, and end of episode. And that was episode 12. Not as big a waste of time as episode 11, but still kind of a waste of time.
I don't know. See, I would disagree. I don't think this episode is a waste of time, because it's Quan awakening. It's Quan realising she's an instrumentalist. It's Quan realising she's got an egg. It's the show telling everyone there's a second RahXephon in a black egg, that the Babham's Foundation is revealed to be in control of fucking everything, that it introduces Helena properly, it has Ernst
does introduce Helena, yeah, but that could be done in another episode. We have heard that she's an instrumentalist pretty much in a previous episode, in that Shrine episode.
I will agree that there's a bit of this that's I don't think it's one of my favourite episodes, and I certainly don't think that it's, considered an amazing piece of, animation or anything like that. But I don't think it's bad. I think it's just they've chosen what they normally do in RahXephon, which is to reveal all the plot points and the twists and the turns in a real bullshitty way that's tough to decipher unless you know the answer already. And then they'll proceed to spend a few episodes giving bigger and bigger hints until everyone's got it. In the same way that we said, oh, the Haruka thing about Ayato, that's, you can kind of infer it from this episode, but honestly you wouldn't really normally get it till this episode. And if you haven't got it by this point, this episode will almost flat out tell you. The show never flat out tells you anything at any point. Nobody sits down with Ayato and saying, so Ayato, we need to talk about what this actually is, or we need to talk about what happened to you last week. Nobody does that. I don't think that happens at any point in the whole show. What happens is, you see what's happening, and then people talk about it who already know what the meaning is. And then people talk about the results of the thing we've just had, and then people talk about the implications of it. And essentially, from all these things, you're meant to just know and eventually infer the cause, the consequences, and the actions themselves. And that's what it's done here. It's done the normal RahXephon thing. It's shown you what these plots going along to. It's shown you all the plot points it wants you to know. And while I haven't seen the next episode for a while, I'm pretty sure that in the next few episodes, or certainly by the end of the series, it will have explained everything that's been explained in this episode again, but it'll have done it in a simpler way and in more detail, and it'll do it multiple times. So I don't think
this season.
I love this show, I do, but I do think that that's the RahXephon way of explaining stuff, and I think it works for them. I do. Especially, it's usually Itchley or Kwon who has the first exposition moment. And there's a reason they do that, and it's because they're the trippiest characters who make the least sense, and who don't do anything in a straightforward way. So, yeah, I'm fine with it, personally. I don't think it's a great episode, and I do think that this has been some of the weaker pairings, but we are dead in the mid-season here.
Yeah.
You know, we've lost on all our nice introductory episodes with all our cool shit happening. We haven't quite got to the climactic bit, and we also haven't got to the big sort of twisty reveals yet, either. All we're at the minute is building on foundations and setting up and foreshadowing.
Exactly. I just wish they could have tried and cut things out and replaced them with more character moments. That would have been nicer.
I know.
More of Alpha Squadron.
Yes, Alpha Squadron, I think, gets
or Kwon's
quite a low amount of time.
Yeah. Or Kwon's fan club.
Yeah, they're actually fun people, and they could have done more time with them. They don't really need more.
What do they need more of,
anything.
though? That these episodes could have been replaced of.
That's what I'm asking you. I'm saying.
I've already said.
We need character moments, but of whom? Of what?
I just said as well. Alpha Squadron. Basically, there's just loads of internal terror stuff, and the problem with this show is, sadly, there isn't a lot of development done with some of the terror staff. These episodes could have had a lot of stuff of that instead of the bullshit.
So, speaking of running out of material, do we have anything left that we need to discuss this week?
In the end, I did not appreciate these episodes. It doesn't harken me too much in the series, but yeah, these felt like too much wasted time.
I do think that the episodes were the weaker ones of the show, and I do think that you could easily have given us everything you gave us in one episode and had a spare one. And whilst I think there's probably more decent moments in it than you seem to. With that, I'm afraid that this time I'm going to steal your thunder, because I'm going to tell you that, Lewis, you need to check the atomic decay of all the matter around you.
But there's so much matter around me, Hugh.
All the matter, Lewis, or it's not a complete job.